Good morning, ma'am. Good morning, classmates. So, for today's meeting, we are going to tackle about communication for academic purposes. Many people intuitively know the proper way to communicate in different settings. For instance, the way you speak to your friends is usually different than the way you speak to your parents. Academic communication, also called scholarly communication, refers to methods of communication that are highly structured and generally only used in pedagogical settings. Academic communication can include the words and structures used to express ideas, as well as the methods by which ideas are disseminated. Descriptive. The simple type of academic writing is descriptive. It is purposed to provide facts or information. An example would be a summary of an article or a result of an experiment. The kinds of instructions for a purely descriptive assignment include identify, report, record, summarize, and define. Analytical. Most academic writing is also analytical. Analytical writing includes descriptive writing but also requires you to reorganize the facts and information you describe into categories, group, parts, types, or relationships. These categories or relationships are already part of the disciplines, while in other cases you will create them specifically for your text. If you're comparing two theories, you might break your comparison into several parts. For example, how each theory deals with social context, how each theory deals with language learning, and how each theory can be used in practice. The kinds of instructions for an analytical assignment include analyze, compare, contrast, relate, and examine. Example to make your writing more analytical: create a name for the relationships and categories you find. For example, advantages and disadvantages. Build each section and paragraph around one of the analytical categories. Persuasive. In most academic writing, you are required to go at least one step further than analytical writing. To persuasive writing has all the features of analytical writing, that is, information, plus reorganizing the information. With the addition of your own point of view, most essays are persuasive, and there is a persuasive element in at least the discussion and conclusion of a research. Critical. Critical writing is common for research, postgraduate, and advanced undergraduate writing. It has all the features of persuasive writing, with the added feature of at least one other point of view. While persuasive writing requires you to have your own point of view on an issue or topic, critical writing requires you to consider at least two points of view, including your own. Examples of critical writing assignments include a critique of a journal article, or a literature review that identifies the strengths and weaknesses of existing research. The kinds of instructions for critical writing include critique, debate, disagree, and evaluate.
Part of research: quantitative and qualitative, title page, approval sheet, acknowledgement, abstract, table of content, list of figure. Chapter 1, problem and its settings. Chapter 2, review related literature. Chapter 3, research and design methodology. While Chapter 4, presentation, analysis, and interpretation of data. Chapter 5, summary, conclusion, and recommendation. Chapter 1, the problem and its settings. Introduction. This is the very beginning of your research paper, where you are expected to provide your thesis statement. This is simple summary of what you're setting out to accomplish your research project, including the problems you're looking to scrutinize at any solution or recommendation that you are anticipated beforehand. For example, here in introduction, lahat naman tayo alam kung ano ang ilalagay natin sa introduction. But here in research paper or thesis is ilagay mo lahat ng settings na gusto mo at ilagay mo din kung ano yung sa problem na hinahanap mo. Next is statement of the problem. The problem must be reflected to your title or to the reader must know your problem by just simply reading your topic. The problem must be arranged with the flow of your documentation or the study. Here in statement of the problem is hindi ka pwedeng maglagay ng mga katanungan na ay ang sagot is yes or no. Meron ka talagang mga katanungan na mahirap sagutin or mga check lang itanong isasagot pala. Approval sheet. This is to prove that the authors have passed the requirements needed for the thesis or research paper. This is signed by the thesis as advisor panel and the dean. This also states the grades obtained by the author or authors. Acknowledgement. This is the page focused on expressing gratitude to organization, agencies, or individual who is one way or another have aided the researcher in finishing the thesis. For example, in acknowledgement, naging ka ng, I know hindi ka naging na, thank you ka sa lahat ng tumulong sa'yo para mabuo mo yung thesis or research paper mo. Abstract. An abstract presents a brief summary of your thesis. The aim of the abstract is to briefly provide the readers with the most important information from the text. For example, in abstract is nagbigay ka ng summary ng research paper mo or thesis na yung mga importanteng details. Table of content. Table of content is essentially a topic outline of the thesis or research paper. It is complied by the listing the heading and the thesis down to whichever level you choose. Here in table content is, alam naman natin lahat kung ano yung table of content. List of figure. Include a list of figure or illustration and list of table if you have one of or more in these categories. Use a separate page of each list. For example, here in list figure is in your research design, meron kang ginawang data or table, pwede mo siyang ilagay dito sa list of figures mo. Another example of statement of the problem is, how is the class being done? Then, sa baba ito is lecture, performance task, hands-on. And the other is, how does class affect this student learning to cook? Ganun lang yung example ng statement of the problem. Hypothesis. A hypothesis is a tentative assumption relating to a certain phenomenon which the researcher wants to verify when required. It's an unproven statement or proposition about a factor or phenomenon that is not interest to the researcher. An important rule of a hypothesis is to suggest variables to be included in the research design. For example, students who are experiencing test anxiety prior to an English exam will get higher scores than students who do not experience test anxiety. Scope and delimitation. The scope is mainly the coverage of your study, and the delimitation is the limitation of your study or topic. Scope and delimitation focuses on the common effect of your topic in the student in the institution where you conduct your research, and to aim what the effect of the topic of yours in the student through the answer of the respondents to their study. Significance of the study. The significance of the study will mainly focus on this question: who will be benefit from the study? This section will state the contribution of your study and the usefulness of your study. For example, this study is all about the effect of your topic to the institution. Its significance because of the finding can be about valuable information regarding to the situation that giving benefit by the following: the future researcher, common community, and the student.
Good holy everyone, this is my report, review of related literature. A review of related literature, RRL, is a deleted review of existing literature related to the topic of a thesis of this generation. In an RRL, you talk about knowledge and findings from existing literature relevant to your topic. To undertake an RRL, therefore, you first need to identify relevant literature. You can do this through various sources, online and offline. Ensure you are saving all applicable sources because you will need to mention them in your paper. Review of related study. In this part, you must get your data and information from unpublished material such as reviews your old study, research, or thesis. In someone format, you must label your unpublished material with local or frozen. Number 1. This should be organized to cover the specific problem. Number 2, you must take note all the invest that the previous researcher come up. Number 3, the unpublished material should not be older than 5 years if possible. Number 4, it must be related to your topic. Do not get it. Number 5, on the last part of this part, you must have a statement how this old unpublished material help the researcher in their corner study and relate it to your study. Conceptual theoretical framework. A conceptual framework allows to rate the research problem in relation to relevant literature. This section may summarize the major dependent and independent variables and their hypothesized relationship. Ideas or construct in your approach. Identify and discuss the variables related to the problem. Definition of terms. The definition of terms must be arranged and alphabetically. It must be also stated if you use your definition of terms and technically your operationally.
I am Nurhana Digustin Tuanadato, so I'm going to report a chapter 3 of our report. First is research designs. Refer to the framework of research method and techniques chosen by a researcher. So this is an arrangement of condition of collection. Next is the local of the study. So this discusses the places or setting of the study. So next is respondent or participant of the study. So the respondent is the willing who answer to question, and participants is who join or willingly to be part of the study as a subject, and those who and those individuals who complete a survey or interview for the researcher, or who provides data to be analyzed for the research study. Then, research instrument. So this is the measurement tools, for example, questionnaires or scales designed to obtain data on a topic of interest from research subjects. Data gathering procedure. So, a person who answers relevant questions, evaluate outcomes, and make prediction about future probabilities and trends. Then, ethical consideration. This is from what you choose to study and to how you manage, utilize the data, and to how you publish and communicate your research. And the last is statistical treatment. The term statistical treatment is a catch-all term, which means to apply any statistical method to your data. Treatment are divided into two groups. First is descriptive. Statistic is the process of using and analyzing their statistics. Last is summary statistics, summarize and provide information